Guys, so I understand that Wes wants to do a quick test of the audio here. Wes, yeah. Hey, how are you? So I don't hear you, Wes. You look like you're about to fly a MiG, man. Come on. Are you set up now? Nah, that's not working. Can't hear you. So you're not muted. So you may need to pop that out and see if you can just use the microphone that's built into the camera. So take that, that's an XLR cable, I guess. If you pop that out, see if you can speak through the microphone built into the camera or into your CPU. No.
No, I don't think it has a microphone.
Got you now. Hey, we got you now.
Oh, you got me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
You now? I can hear you now.
Can. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, I got you. Unfortunately, I'm not the host of it, so I can't mute you now, but mute yourself back, please. All right. So Journal, Lee Sanderlin, hey there. Laura T. Rivera, that's red. All right, WFMY. So let's see who else we have here. Brian Anthony. What's your station, Brian? Oh, you're WFDD, Brian.
WSNC.
WSNC. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I see you there. Yeah. There you are. Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. So let's see what we're looking at here. Jordan, I see you there. Mary Helen, hi there. Jess, Laura, you got Mr. Garrity. I don't see Miss Rivera, but she is muted. Okay. So less than 1 minute out here, guys, and we'll get going. All right. So yeah, so you have video, audio. Okay, looks like everybody's muted. Jordan, you are not muted. Would you mute your mic, please?
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Damon is good and August is good. Okay. All right. Okay, so it's 11 o'clock. We're going to start. I want to just say a few words, folks. My name is Ed McNeil. I'm Director of Marketing and Communications for City of Winston-Salem. Thank you all for accepting the invitation to give really an opportunity for you all to help us get the word out with details about what the mayor's order means. So we want to be efficient with this time and get you back to your production and all of that. I do want to take just a moment and let you know that if you go to the city's webpage, cityofws.org, across the upper banner there's an alert center. That alert center is where we have put all of our information regarding COVID-19. Okay, so the order, as soon as it came from the mayor's office, went there. There's a Q&A there. So I encourage you, even now, while you're sitting getting ready for this, to go ahead and take a look at that. You may find some of your questions can be answered there, but we certainly appreciate your time in responding to hear what these gentlemen have to say. So you all have the news release, so you see the proper spelling and the proper titles for Mr. Duquesne, Assistant City Manager, and Mr. Vernon from the Emergency Management. And so I'm going to ask them, are you men ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So so we will open the floor now. Reporters, you can turn your, if you are not speaking, we ask that you leave your microphone on mute. But I'll step aside now, and the first reporter is welcome to ask their question. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll start. With this order, there's so many different exceptions and things that it's kind of hard to sort of get a bird's eye view and figure out exactly what's going to change in day-to-day life. And I was wondering if there's anybody can sort of provide an overview of, how is life going to be different with this order in effect? What are we going to see that's different? What are people going to be not doing that they were doing before?
Good question, Wes. Thank you. So, first and foremost, one major change is no gatherings of over 10 people. That's number one. The second one that's gonna affect a lot of people is the closing of playgrounds. There's a lot of intermittent touching and those sorts of things. So the effect of the playgrounds. And from a 30,000-foot view, the real purpose is to reinforce social distancing as a community. What we know from the CDC, from the Health and Human Services departments, from the national to the local level is, if you want to minimize the spread of COVID-19, social distancing, hand washing, and all the other preventative measures are the key. And so that's what the overall purpose is. And, limiting those gatherings and the social distancing part and the preventative measures are key.
Hey, I'm going to jump in here and just ask, how enforceable is it, the stay-at-home order, the gathering order?
Good question. How enforceable is it? If you're asking, are police officers going to be stopping random vehicles on the road and asking them for papers to verify why they're out, that's not going to happen. If there are large groups of people who have gathered, the police who are charged by the order with enforcing its intent, they're gonna educate. They're gonna look for voluntary compliance with the order, and only in the most egregious involuntary cases will they actually cite somebody. I'll use the term, it's more of a social contract that says this is a serious situation, this is a national crisis, and we have an order in place to help you comply with the social distancing and the preventative measures so that we don't overwhelm our medical system and end up in a situation like Italy or New York. We want to slow the spread so that it can be handled by our medical community if the need arises.
Were there specific behaviors that you guys have been seeing over the past few days that led you to enact this, with people ignoring the regulations that have been asked of them?
I can't cite specific examples that would have led to this. What primarily led to this was that the medical community, being strategic thinkers, are looking ahead and saying, if we don't do everything we can to ensure social distancing and preventative measures are followed, we could follow suit of some of the people who are suffering right now and being overrun. So it wasn't any mass gathering of people who led to this, but it's more of based on the advice of the medical community and the professionals who are going to be on the front lines of treating victims of the virus, that these actions were taken.
Yeah, and Damon, if I can follow up on that, you have to remember we did a state of emergency. That is the same state of emergency that we have used even in the past 2 years with hurricanes, snowstorms, and other events. And this is just additional amendments or restrictions added to that state of emergency. And really the priority here again is to enforce the social distancing, to really try to protect our healthcare system. And this is really being done at their request to help them, because we are seeing what's happening around the world, and we're trying to prevent being in that spot right now.
Jordan Green here. I wanted to ask a question about workplaces. Yesterday, across the Triad, a lot of large manufacturers and large employers sent letters to their employees saying, you are essential employees, or this is an essential business. You should still come to work, including, and then earlier this week, a aerospace company in Winston-Salem sent out something similar. Do they have any claim to be exempt from this, or how do you assess whether manufacturers or large companies should be telling their employees to come to work or not?
So I'll answer that first, then Damon could follow up. The first thing I'd like to address where some of that came from, there's a lot of false information and misinformation. One of those is around what is called a reentry permit. And a reentry permit is a tool that's used the State Division of Emergency Management, typically to allow people to return to a community after a hurricane or some other type of event. And somehow reentry permits started to be spread online and was being shared with some of our largest business and community partners. So at this time, there is no reentry permit. Obviously, the list is extensive on who is considered critical infrastructure, and we would refer you to go to the frequently asked questions or the actual resolution itself to get more details on that. But again, there is no reentry permit at this time. That is another tool that's available, but we are not at that spot right now.
So I hadn't heard the term reentry permit. Two aerospace companies cited a Department of Homeland Security memo from March 13th.
Yes. So if you go to the actual order itself, there's a link to that document. CISA, they're a part of the Department of Homeland Security, and what that is a guidance document for state and local officials to use in determining critical infrastructure essential businesses. Aerospace is part of transportation, and transportation is one of 16 broad categories that document covers.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, Jess Winters here, jumping in from News 2. And I had a question just following up on policing, if you can hear me. I know it's only if worse comes to worse, but what would that citation look like? What would the dollar amount be?
I don't have specifics on that. The ultimate is a class 2 misdemeanor, like the order states. But as I answered previously, the officers will start with voluntary compliance, discussing the order, explaining the intent of the order, and educating folks, and only in the worst of cases would someone need to be cited.
Got it, appreciate it. And another question for you while I have you. A lot of businesses already had to close on Wednesday by 5 p.m. With this new stay-at-home order, will any additional businesses need to close? Because from what I'm looking at the list, it looks like there's a lot more essential businesses that are staying open than non-essential businesses that are closing. So, we got an inquiry from a car salesman, for example.
That's an excellent point. So yes, there will be additional businesses closing. We've been receiving, as I'm sure you can imagine, a number of requests from businesses as to whether they're considered essential or not under the order. If you have a stationery store where you maybe sell greeting cards and things like that, that's non-essential, and they're going to be expected to close by 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We're sort of handling some of those on a case-by-case basis. Car dealerships, depending on who they supply, if they're supplying law enforcement vehicles or trades type vehicles and those sorts of things, but they can just contact the city and we'll be happy to help them in determining whether they're essential or not.
Got it, appreciate it.
Damon,
You're welcome.
what if the stationery shop doesn't close? Are you going to make them close? Like, how would you make a non-essential business close?
Then that's when the police will have to go and enforce the order.
Damon, can you hear me?
Can.
Okay. I'm curious, just to follow up to that, is there a czar who decides whether a business is essential or not? Is it you? Is it legality, the mayor? And if someone doesn't like that, whoever that czar is, if they don't like that decision, is there an appeal process? I mean, a lot of questions are going to be like that are probably going to come up.
They are coming up, Wes. They're asking us every day, all day long, right, August?
Correct.
We do our best between the city attorney and the city manager's office and the mayor to determine the intent of the order and whether or not, under the broad language that's provided, the business is essential or not. the decision ends with the mayor. It's his order, and it's to be enforced by the Winston-Salem Police Department. So they can appeal to the mayor, and the buck stops there. Wes, I can't hear you. It's muted.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can fix this. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. In my neighborhood, just to give an example, a lot of the kids play with each other going from yard to yard, or have been traditionally. What's your guidance to parents? Are those kids supposed to stay in their own yard, not play with other kids? Or are you leaving that up to parents to decide how to handle their kids while they're out of school and everything and want to play?
Yeah, I knew you'd do something like that, Wes. So that is a difficult decision. You know, ultimately, if you want to provide the best social distancing possible, you would eliminate as much contact, that intimate contact between people, children or otherwise, as much as possible. Yeah, I have a small child of my own. He loves to go across the street and play with his only friend, and we've had to, you know, have those discussions with him that, you know, maybe it's okay to kick the soccer ball back and forth, but you know, you're not going to be sharing a bag of chips and those sorts of things. That's where we're asking the community, under form of a social contract, for lack of a better term, to use your best judgment in social distancing and preventing the spread or potential spread of the virus.
Expect that people will be calling up and saying, "Hey, there's some, you know, kids gathering on my street," and if that kind of thing happens, you know, will the police be coming out and checking and saying, "Hey, you kids shouldn't be gathering together"? What's going to happen in that situation?
Well, first we'd ask folks to try and handle that on their own. If it's in your neighborhood, hopefully you speak to your neighbors, and you can sort of handle that on your own or address it with your own children. If there, say, would be a large gathering of youth, or someone tried to organize a soccer tournament at a local HOA soccer field, then I imagine, yes, we would have to have the police come down and explain the order and get some voluntary compliance.
Hey, Just Winters with News 2 here again. I know you have the hotline set up. Has it been ringing off the hook? I'm sure it has. And if so, what's the #1 question y'all are getting? So hopefully we can answer it for viewers and anyone listening.
Thank you for that. That's an excellent question. So in general, I'm going to follow up on what Mr. Vernon said earlier. There's just a lot of misinformation. We really want folks to go out and look at the frequently asked questions. I think one question that's come up, you can go out, you can go to the grocery store. You're not locked into your home. There's no martial law where the police are going to be rolling down your street asking you what you're doing and why you're doing it. It's an order to remind the community about social distancing and to limit your trips out only to those that are essential. Probably one of the best questions that I've been getting is, you know, I work out of the city, or I have a business that's located out of the city that isn't closed. Can my employees come to and from work? And the answer to that is yes. You're free to move about as necessary for essential services. And this is not a lockdown. We're not putting everybody on quarantine, but limit your trips, minimize your exposure to others, and practice sound social distancing in small groups.
And I'd just like to follow that up. This just, you know, to remind everyone, this is unprecedented. In 30 years of public safety experience, with almost 20 of that in emergency management, we've never had to manage a situation like this. If 3 weeks ago you had asked me what a stay-at-home order would look like, that would have been hard to define. So we're really just, even our past experience with SARS, with anthrax scare, with Ebola, with H1N1, with Zika virus, with other public health emergencies we've dealt with, it's really never been like this. So we're just asking for the community to work together, use what we call a measured response, make an educated decision. I would not make your decision based on posts that you're seeing on incorrect or information that you're seeing on social media. Read the frequently asked questions. You can read the ordinance or the state of emergency. You can read the governor's executive order. You can look at the frequently asked questions related to all of these. The same sites we're using, the Forsyth County Department of Public Health, the State Department of Health and Human Services, and the CDC COVID-19 website is where we're getting a lot of our information and guidance from. So I think a measured response, making an informed decision will help. This may take some time to figure out, so we just ask for everyone to, again, make the right decision based on the right information.
I have a question about the end time of this. How is that determined, and is it possible that would be extended?
Certainly, good question. So the end time was determined to be consistent with other orders that are currently out there, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and others. So we all have essentially the same end date. It'll be reviewed and amended as necessary based on our Office of City County Emergency Management, Public Health, and the local healthcare providers.
I have a question. This is Carrie Brown with WFDD, and we're getting a lot of questions from people about spring break is coming up, and they're wanting to know, can I go to my local cabin or, that sort of thing. So I guess in light of that spring break is coming up, it sounds like it's not encouraged. It's more of, stay where you're at kind of thing, unless you have to go out for certain things. Is that accurate, or is there anything you can say on that end?
Well, I'll try to answer first. So my recommendation for that, we've gotten those questions also. If apparently some of the coastal counties have stopped all community members who are not from that community from coming in, have stopped rentals. There may be some of that in the mountains. So I think the best answer you could do right now is if you're planning on going on a trip somewhere to see if they're open or they are allowing visitors. And again, all this could change in 30, 36, 48, 72 hours. So that's going back to that. So that's going back to make an informed decision based on the best information. But I think they need to, we had a trip planned this weekend for our youngest son's birthday, and we obviously have had to cancel that. So I think they need to look into where they're going to get the best answer for that.
This is April Leslie with WFDD as well. Damon, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about business closures earlier. You said with that stationery store that you would send police out if they were still operating past Friday. Would the police just talk to these store owners? Is there a fine that could be leveled against them? And is there a day that is set aside to making sure that all of those enforcement actions are taken?
Again,
are they going to go around on Saturday and check?
It's not a police state. This is not a violation of anybody's freedoms. But if a business remains open and we're notified of it, the police will go and have a discussion with them about the intent of the order and get them to voluntarily comply. If they're not willing to do that, or if there's repeat offenses, it could move to the state of a citation, and as the order states, up to and including a Class 2 misdemeanor.
This is Laura from WXII.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Great. We've been getting a lot of questions from individuals who have businesses about where they fall in that essential, non-essential, and even looking at the website and reading the order, there's a lot of fine print there, a lot of nuanced language there. Where can we send them so that they can ask people in the city whether or not they're allowed to stay open?
Certainly, and we've been receiving a lot of those requests already. They're welcome to call the city. They can call CityLink, which is an easy number, and they'll get them to a member of staff who can help them with that determination.
This is Jess Winters with News 2. Do you know how many people are manning that, the CityLink and the hotline and the email that people can email in with questions? Just because I know some people were like, well, I haven't gotten an email back yet, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure they can expect a wait time, but it'd be good to just tell them that, hey, they'll get back to you in a day or
I'm not
an
prepared to
hour?
answer that, but our city link, our call center is fully staffed and operational. So we'll do our best to respond to people as quickly as we can. Again, a lot of this information is already out there, and it's available on our website. And for those who need assistance, we're happy to provide it. They just need to have a little bit of patience for us to get back to them.
Damon, it's Wes. Are there other things in your quiver that you can pull out if this doesn't prove to be enough? Have you talked about next steps to further isolate people, or you know, what could happen? I guess if it needs to get clamped down even more.
We have not. The governor's previous order goes into effect or went into effect at 5 o'clock yesterday. This doesn't go into effect until 5 o'clock Friday. We don't know if you watched the governor's press conference yesterday. They're considering putting out further orders. So at this point, we're going to rely on public health and the local medical community and see how things progress before we start to consider next steps. Again, this is to let people know that this is serious, that social distancing is important, and we're asking for their cooperation. We truly are all in this together. And if people will realize that and act appropriately, we can really have a positive effect and slow the spread of the virus here locally.
Mr. Vernon, are you going to be going or taking part in the county meeting today? And will you be advocating a countywide measure similar to the one that the city has taken? And just sort of to follow up to that, talking to Dave Plyler, he was suggesting that, well, a few days wait wouldn't matter, that, they need to act deliberately rather than just suddenly. Just wanted to know if you're going to be weighing in on that and if you have an opinion about what they should be doing.
I will be at the 2 p.m. commissioners briefing today, or I believe that's virtual. I will be participating in that. Obviously, I think there'll be more information from the county at 2 p.m. We have been having these conversations with all our community partners, even across the entire triad. And again, it's the rapidly evolving situation, but we'll have more information on that at 2 p.m. today.
If there are no more questions, we're going to let these men get back to their work. Thank you all for joining us. Are there any other questions? Everybody good?
Yep, thank you.
We're good, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Your time.